because we're going to build on this. So if this didn't go well today, it's going to be a little bit tougher. Like today's just going to be tougher in general, but I want to make sure you guys are kind of clear on this before we move on. Any questions? All right. You guys, today's notes. Algebraic expressions. So looking at those first three, we're not solving those, we're just simplifying them. So take a minute to look at those. Think back to last chapter. We're simplifying. Just so you guys know, if you do, I mean, it's just because a big chunk of people had to go virtual recently. Just so you guys know, I do record our class in here and then upload it like kind of during class and then right at the end of class. So if you're ever home, just know that algebra is not going to be instant, like so you don't have to join a live Google Meet, but you just have to wait a little bit for the videos. But when you are at home, you have to go online and do an attendance quiz question. And typically it's just a quick question to make sure you watched yesterday's videos or you were in class yesterday. So that's just for me to know that you like logged in. And then the homework assignment's in there, and then I upload the videos, and you can kind of watch those at your leisure. So I like doing videos rather than a live Google Meet just because math is one of those things. Some of you guys are really quick at it, and others of you need a moment to kind of process. So feel free to pause as needed. Depending on your comfort level with like the speed of everything. So the warm-up question is questions are asking us just to simplify these. Now again, this is what we did last chapter. So you should not be solving. We can't actually solve these because we don't know what x is and we don't know what the equation equals. So all we want to do is simplify. So take a few minutes to do that. Yeah.
You're on the wrong page on the Spanish page.
Am I really? Oh yeah, you look at that. Sorry, thank you. And Espanol. I might not have saved it in English, now I'm worried. the first one. So what do you guys want to put together in number 1? Yeah, go ahead, Clayton.
The 2x and the negative x.
Okay, so 2x and the negative x.
And also the 3x as well.
Yeah, that as well. Very good. So all of those get to go together. Notice when I circle those, I circle the sign right in front of them. So the 2x is positive, the negative x is negative, obviously, and we get to put those all together. So it's 3 plus 2 minus 1, so what do I get? 4x. Remember, we don't change the exponent on the variable at all, we just leave that as an x. Just combine those like terms. And then hopefully once I circle those, then it's kind of obvious what's left there. The 4 and 2 should go together, and that just becomes 6, it's positive 6, so plus 6. So being able to combine like terms is going to be an important part of this, what we're doing today. Now number 2, what was your first step here? A little bit tricky. Yeah, go ahead, Trista.
Distribute.
Would you distribute?
The negative 1.
Yeah, remember when there's a minus sign in front of the parentheses, it's really like distributing the negative 1 in. So we're going to distribute that in there. So we get 5x, and then we have a negative 3x, and then a positive 2, right? So it kind of just changes those signs. Hi. So then we have these 2 guys that we can combine. So 5 minus 3 gives us 2x, and then 2 and 8 is going to be 10. So that's as simple as it goes. Did they get it in Spanish first? I think I'm forgetting, I'm like changing my old notes to be Spanish notes, and then I'm forgetting to resave them as Spanish notes. I just leave them, I think. So that's the way things are going right now. All right, example 3, definitely one that can trip you up here. Careful, what should we do first? Distribute. I know it's really, really tempting to see that 2 plus 3 and be like, I can add those. I'm going to make that 5 before I distribute, because it's such an easy addition to do. But we want to distribute first. That's our order of operations that we want to multiply before we add and subtract. So we're going to distribute that 3 in. So that's going to get distributed, and the 2 is just kind of hang out until we're ready to work with it there. So 2 comes down. So we have a positive 3x and then a positive 12. And then once we're there, we can combine the 2 and 12. So 2 and 12 would be 14, so I get 3x plus 14, or 14 plus 3x. It doesn't matter how you write that. Okay? Okay, any questions? All right, yeah, probably biggest thing there is just remembering we got to multiply before we add and subtract. So that's with simplifying equations. What we're going to do today is going to combine this with what we did last class with the 2-step equations. So really, hopefully, kind of building those 2 ideas together. So we're going to come with more steps in our equations here today. So I actually started off with what I consider to be a really, really hard question. This one possibly looks really tough. Like you might look at that and be like, yikes, that's a lot of steps, or I don't even know where to start. And I'm kind of starting with one that's tough. If you know how to tackle it, it's probably because you're really being able to realize all this is just the similar things we've been talking about. So, sorry. What we're going to do is when we're solving these, we can't just jump into the add and subtract step. We have to start by simplifying these. So basically, I kind of have a little bit of a mess on this left side over here. I can tell there's a lot that can kind of like be condensed down, kind of more similar to what we did in the warm-up. So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to start by simplifying. Just like we did in the warm-up, we're going to distribute first. So that's going to be our first step. So if we're able to, we're going to try and distribute. So we're going to distribute to get rid of those parentheses. So you want to do that very first step, just like we did in the warm-up. You don't want to kind of like forego everything we knew from before. So careful, what's being distributed here? What's being distributed in this case, you guys? The negative 2 is being distributed. So we're going to distribute that negative 2 in. So this is going to go into the parentheses. So at this point, nothing's happening to 1. I don't want to forget to bring that down. Negative 2 times 3x is a negative 6x. Negative 2 times a negative 4 is a positive 8. Then minus 3x equals a negative 9. So this is what before was not there. It was like what was in the parentheses kind of before. So we have to be really careful with signs. There's lots of places to make small mistakes, and we want to make sure we have the right signs. Our next step is now we're going to combine our like terms, just like we did on the warm-up. So we're going to combine like terms. I'm actually going to skip steps A and B today. We don't really need to worry about them. That's kind of an extra thing that we're going to learn tomorrow. So I'm going to skip that step right now. So we're just going to combine like terms. So what do you guys want to put together over here? The 1 and 8. So the positive 1 and the positive 8. So we're going to get 9 for that, right? Then I have this negative 6x and negative 3x. How much is that? Negative 9. Down 6, down 3 more, so negative 9x. And that's going to equal negative 9, lots of 9s. We're going to, like I said, we're not going to worry about steps A and B today. We'll talk about those tomorrow. So now we're ready to start solving. Now this has become a two-step equation. So now we get to solve. We did this for the last couple days. We know how to solve something like this. So now kind of switch gears back to yesterday, or even the day before, so it would have been last week. We want to solve, but now with solving, we want to add or subtract first. So this is where we start undoing order of operations. So we're going to add or subtract to get the variable alone. So we're going to add or subtract to isolate x. So I bet you're going to do something with a 9. There's kind of not a lot else to do. So I'm going to move this 9 over. So in order, since it's a positive, I'm going to take it away. 9 minus 9 is 0. I'm trying to get that x alone. So this is a negative 18 there. Yep, now we're ready to multiply or divide to isolate x. We're going to divide by that negative 9. And 2 negatives divided becomes a positive. 18 divided by 9 is just going to be 2. And remember, the last step is just basically we want to check, we want to simplify, we want to make sure that answer is kind of in that simplest form. And then remember, we want to write it as x equals. So you do want to tell me what x equals at the end. So the x is now alone, it equals 2. Now, I'm telling you guys right now, that problem we just did, I would say that's one of the tougher ones we'll do today. So if you're like, oh, that was manageable. Now we're going to go to kind of some that have less steps. which sometimes once you learn all the steps, it's kind of confusing once I take a step away. Like you're kind of like, oh, I'm missing something here. So we're gonna flip to the back side and work through just more problems that are the same or similar. Again, they're just gonna have fewer steps typically. And we'll take a break after a couple more examples and practice a little bit. I have a Kahoot for you guys today. All right. So in example 1 here, the first step says get rid of the parentheses. Do we have parentheses? No, so that's a step we can skip. So again, sometimes it's a little confusing. You're like, I don't know where to go. There's no parentheses. That's okay. That means that we have less work to do. So we're on to the next step, which is combine like terms. What can I put together here? The h's. So I have these h's. I have a negative h and a negative h. What happens with negative h and negative h? Remember, it's like a -1 and a -1. -2, yeah, it goes down 1 and down another. So it'll be a -2. So we combine those like terms. Once we did that, now we're down to a 2-step equation. So again, this should look manageable because now we're down to just 2 steps. Everyone okay with what we've done so far? Okay. So now we're ready to add or subtract. What are you going to move? The 19. So move that 19 away. So 13 minus 19, -6. So now we want to get that h alone. It's being multiplied by -2, so instead we're going to divide. So negative over a negative is going to be a positive, and it'll just be 3. And again, if you're ever like, let's say you have a couple of minutes and you're just waiting or you're really nervous, like I was always like, I tested fast. Like I would finish my test really quickly and then I kind of sat there and waited for somebody else to finish. So I would go back and then check my answer. If I go back in, remember this this number should work in this problem. If I do 19 minus 3 minus 3, it better equal 13. 19 minus 3 is 16, minus 3 again is 13. So if you ever have an extra minute or if you're trying to just double check things on a test, you can always put that value back in and it should work. So that's kind of a good thing to know, that that's kind of how that variable works. So number 2, what are we going to do first? Distribute. This one actually has parentheses, so we want to get rid of them first. So we're going to distribute. And we're multiplying on that distribute step. Then I look and see there's no like terms. So I don't have to combine like terms on this step because there's nothing to combine. So now I'm ready to skip right on to the addition and subtraction. So I'm going to move that 30 away. This will be 36. And then I'll divide by 6. Pause right now, and I think we're going to do our Kahoots to practice. Now, those of you guys online, the Kahoot will not be live, but you can always play along, kind of follow through the questions with us. Otherwise, you can fast forward. So I'm going to get you guys going here on a Kahoot. So I want you guys to use your laptop, your own name. You might want scratch paper or a whiteboard or something. If you're having trouble seeing your board, like for the board from your ankle, you can always move, like Landon, I don't know, it's hard to see from where you are. scratch paper or a whiteboard to do your work. You might want a calculator. Yeah, what's up? Oh, weird. Let's try backing out of it. Let me see. Only like now it's saying that you're missing. I'm gonna completely drop out of it, so we'll try going back in again. So those three of you are already in. You're at the. What would my class be without technical difficulties? Gonna try that.
I still take it.
Really? Weird. The limit of 3 players. Should we give it a minute and come back to it?
Yeah, because my computer's acting goofy.
What did you type in, Victoria?
Did you leave a space or no space?
No space.
No space.
I still tried it and it doesn't work.
You might have to. Now you got it. Everyone should be playing, please.
No.
Just needs a little patience. It doesn't have a space, but I don't know.
Reloading the thing.
Yeah, no, I know.
The what?
I said try
You guys still
reloading
not
the
getting
thing
it?
and putting it in.
I think we're still having issues. Why don't we wait? Why don't we give Kahoot a minute?